What's up, everybody? Welcome to the 4040 Vision podcast. I'm your host, Khaled Abdallah, and I'm joined today by my good friend, Cyrus Saatsaz, host of the Golden Daze Pod and the V for Valkyries show. How you doing today, Cyrus?
It's still early, but I'm doing okay. I'm following along with this gambling story that's really spoiled the start of the NBA season.
Yeah,
I did not think and I am not special enough. I'm not powerful enough for my words to create hexes on the NBA. But last night, man, I was on social media saying I don't think this could have started any better for the NBA.
absolutely.
Like these first 2 days were fantastic in every regard, man. Like content, production, the coverage. Like last night we had Inside the NBA and those guys
Yeah,
are
it was
back and
awesome.
they were on fire. And then, so like the first 2 days of the NBA is perfect. And then, of course, morning of day three, you have this bombshell gambling story. The part that riveted me the most is the fact that the mafia is still alive and kicking. Like there's a
Yeah,
lot of
who would have thought,
speculation that the
right?
mafia is like a passe concept, that they're no longer relevant. Bull F, can I swear on this show?
Please.
Bull fucking shit. Mafia is still in power. They're still running things. I kind of like that.
It's
That's
crazy,
what's
right?
feeding me. How are you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. I mean, that's a great way to kick things off. I mean, we're recording this on October 23rd here, and things, like you said, last night was an amazing second night for the NBA. People say opening night is nice because it's 2 games, but this is when the season really kicks off, when literally every other team is playing, and Wemby goes crazy. Anthony Edwards has 40 points. VJ Edgecombe, has I think 37, the most by a rookie in however long. Just an
He looked
amazing,
good.
amazing start to the season. Then, of course, things had to go wrong in a spectacular way.
I'm still watching. I'm still gonna watch, but this is not for the
Absolutely.
NBA. This ain't positive, right?
No, it's not. And I think maybe that's a good place to start. I mean, I want to talk to you about the Warriors and the NBA in general today. Of course, you are the, Warriors expert with your own podcast about the Dubs and the Valkyries. So don't shrug. You don't need to be modest about it.
But I'm not, man. But thank you though.
But this gambling thing, I mean, obviously it's swept up Terry Rozier. We had Jonte Porter last year get caught up, Malik Beasley, who supposedly is innocent. I don't know. But what does this mean for the future for the NBA? Like, is there going to be some kind of reckoning, like maybe the Tim Donaghy scandal or anything? No? Okay.
I don't think. I mean, even the Donaghy scandal. Like, was there really a reckoning, or was it just,
He just went to
like?
jail. Yeah,
I mean,
that's it.
he did, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and who knows? Maybe like Chauncey Billups gets in trouble. Maybe Terry Rozier gets in trouble. I mean, Rozier, I feel like I thought he got away with this. I thought he was done. I mean,
Same. Yeah.
Rozier's been investigated for a while. The Billups part of this is new. I've never heard of James Jones's name before associated with gambling until this, but Terry Rozier this isn't unfamiliar territory for him. And I thought he was done though. I thought like it was in the past, and apparently not, dude. So again, what I also really hate about all this is the fact that the federal government is behind it in terms of the investigation.
Yeah.
And these corrupt mofos love to deflect, right? And these corrupt
Absolutely.
mofos love to do anything to shift the spotlight to where they want it to go. And another day where we're not talking about Jeffrey Epstein and the president. I'm never going to let that go. But yeah, in terms of the sports media scene, all attention is diverted to gambling. The national scene, I mean, it's like headline news everywhere, not just sports. Is this story? And you got that Cash Patel guy, the head of the FBI, like speaking in front of a camera and mic, more attention for him. So that part of it, I disdain. I have disdain for, dude. Like that part of it sucks. It's like, great, man. Like a story that affects none of us, right? It only affects like the uber wealthy. And because even if you're a gambler, like how does this affect you? You're just going to keep gambling,
No. Yeah.
So it affects like a few really powerful people. And in terms of, because I'm a professor as well, so like media coverage and everything is my forte, man. And even on a theoretical level. So this is classic what you call hegemony. This is just like the people in power doing what they got to do to keep the focus away from what affects the people the most. And that always
Yeah.
troubles me.
Absolutely. And I think no one in the NBA is probably happy about this except for Steve Ballmer, because no one is talking about Kawhi Leonard anymore. But I mean, everyone else is probably quaking in their boots because,
Right.
I mean, even if Chauncey isn't implicated in any gambling, on the NBA itself, you're going to call into question his integrity. Any decision that he made last year with lineups or anything like that, it all of a sudden becomes questionable. And obviously, I don't know if you've seen the clips of Terry Rozier, like basically throwing the game away.
Yes.
And so
Yes, I
all
saw
of that comes into question. I think
bad
that's the
look.
biggest. Yeah, it looked very suspect. I think the biggest thing is like once you call like the integrity of the game into question, nothing else matters. And I think that
Nope.
that's the point where we're at. So it's scary times for the
It's
NBA. But
unfortunate. Yeah, it is.
yeah, but let's talk basketball.
All right.
I brought you on or asked you on for to talk about the Warriors because we're both Warriors fans. Grew up in the Bay Area, lifelong diehards, I would assume.
Are you born and raised in the Bay Area? Because I know you told me before we started recording you're in
Yeah.
Sac. So are you one of the many who like grew up thinking, oh, worst comes to worst, I'm gonna move to San Leandro or I might move to Union City, and then Tech shows up and ruins that dream for everybody, and so now you're in Sac. Is that accurate in any regards
So
for your life trajectory?
I've lived in a lot of places, so I'll try to summarize it as such. Like I grew up I wasn't born in the Bay Area, but I grew up, went to elementary school through high school.
What elementary school?
I went to a private Islamic school, so I don't think you've ever heard of it, but
Test me. Maybe I will. I know the Bay pretty well.
you do. Okay, I went to Granada in Santa Clara, so it's the
Okay.
big Islamic
I
private
do know
school.
where that is. Yeah.
Okay, all right, cool. We probably know a lot of the same people.
I don't know if I get that far, but maybe. Who knows? I feel like I'm older than you, so I don't know in that regard, but yeah. So what led you from Santa Clara to Sac, man? Is it work or just economy?
No, so I lived on the East Coast for a good 10 years between New Jersey and Philadelphia. So I moved out there with my family, and then my wife and I, we moved out there. And then we wanted to come back to California, and the Bay Area is crazy expensive. So
Yeah.
we decided, Sac is a nice, happy medium, close to family, and still feels like the Bay. Feels like the
It
Bay
does.
from like the mid 90s, I would say.
It
So I think a
and you're
lot of
close
people
to
are like that.
Tahoe, like that's always a huge positive, dude. And
Yeah.
if you start really exploring, like you have a national park that's like 2 or 3 hours north of you, Lassen, which is grossly
Okay.
underrated. Shasta's super. I mean, look, if
I
you're an
love
outdoorsman
Shasta.
like
Yeah.
me, like Sac has a lot to offer. It's just the summers are effing brutal, dude, as you know, man. So
Yeah, it
AC's
is.
no,
But, you take what you can get.
exactly.
So the
Props to you, by the
Warriors.
way, for the East
Yeah.
Coast experience, though, man. Like I feel like naturally my sense of humor and my sports mentality is much better suited for the East Coast than the West. And every time I've traveled to the East Coast, I've had the time of my life, dude. The energy there is awesome.
It's
Uh,
unmatched.
Agreed.
The passion there. I just had a guest on last week. He works for the Oakland Ballers, and he went to a Niners-Eagles game, the NFC Championship game a few years back. And he said, I've never felt more scared, feared for my life as a Niners fan in Philadelphia, but he loved the passion. And like, I know sports radio out there is kind of a meme with like, hey, first time, long time, and the thick accents and stuff like that. But these people care so deeply about their teams. And,
Truth is, like if I was your friend, if like I've never gone to an Eagles game. Like I went to a Seahawks game back when in the 2000s, and I proudly wore my Niners jersey. And look at Seattle, man, that's a soft ass crowd. But I respect the Philly fan base though. They are knowledgeable, and while they will throw batteries at Santa Claus, the only time I've ever been disappointed by their conduct was that Karen at the Phillies game this past season. And even like Phillies fans are embarrassed by her.
And that
for
wasn't
that
in
conduct.
Philadelphia. That was in Atlanta, I think. So maybe they get a pass there. She was a Phillies fan, but it was not in Philadelphia. Yeah.
I thought for some reason that was in Philly. So that was in
Nope.
Atlanta?
Somewhere other than Philadelphia, for sure.
Well, that makes it better then. That does make it better. Okay. But my point is, like, even though like they're passionate and they're kind of crazy, I would weirdly feel comfortable rolling into a road Eagles game with a Niners jersey on. Like I feel like I'd get yelled at, but I wouldn't feel threatened for my life. I just feel like I'd have to have a good amount of responses prepared and a good amount of just shit talking levied at me that I'd have
In
to
the thick
take,
skin.
right? You're guesting
Yeah.
someone else's home. But like I respect them in terms of like knowing what the boundaries are and knowing that ultimately this is just sports. They just care a lot about it. But in the end, it's still just sports, man. I
sure,
love the East
for
Coast.
sure.
Sorry to deflect.
No, all good. It's definitely part of my like fan experience as being an
Me too.
away fan.
I
I
love
went
it.
to a Sixers game as a Warriors fan. I didn't go to like a Raiders or Niners game or anything like that out there, but so it was fun being, the bad guy in those crowds. But yeah, I want to talk to you about the Warriors because I think in a very, very loaded West, this is one of the more interesting teams because of the roster composition, the age, some of the storylines with Jonathan Kuminga and some of the other young guys that I definitely want to talk about. So, in terms of like a season outlook, what are you looking at, or what do you think is going to happen with this team?
Until last night, I felt amazing about him. And then, like everyone else, I watched Wemby. And my immediate thought after seeing the Spurs and the Mavericks, who, side note, if health provides, that's the future of the NBA, man. Like Cooper Flag and Wemby, and then Anthony Edwards, and then Jonathan Kuminga. And I'm being I'm saying that slightly in jest, I'm being frivolous, but I still think Kuminga has an incredible future. We have no idea what his ceiling is. But all kidding aside, look, man, Cooper Flag, Wemby, Anthony Edwards, the NBA is in great hands, and all three of those players were on fire last night. Even Cooper Flag is an 18-year-old. I know the numbers weren't spectacular, but I did see like 6 assists in the first half. He's playing out of position as a point guard. I mean, Charles Barkley, what I thought was very astute in that Inside the NBA postgame show, saying, stop playing this guy at the point. But he's too valuable as a scorer. And again, sorry about my dog. Anyway, so until last night, I felt amazing. And I also felt the Lakers were not the best test. I don't see them as anything more than a play-in. But watching Wemby do what he did, maybe slightly ahead of schedule, maybe right on schedule, scares the ever-living crap out of me. And I think the coaching staff of the Warriors, every coaching staff, any coach whose name is not Chauncey Billups, is going to earn their money this season providing schematics and spending a lot of after hours preparing for the Spurs, because what the hell do you do? Like, if you're the Warriors, my immediate thought right now is, like, what exactly is the plan for Wemby? Like, if when the Spurs come to town, when the Warriors are in San Antonio, what is the plan? So I'm thinking a lot about that. And I'm thinking about like what the Warriors are going to do against a team like the Spurs. Tonight, we're recording this on Thursday, October 23rd. Tonight, the Warriors have their first real, genuinely good test against another very big team, the Denver Nuggets. Like, Wemby has already made Nikola Jokic an afterthought. That's insane. We're just on day 3 of the NBA season, and Nikola Jokic, arguably the best player in the NBA, is right now not on anyone's mind because of what Wemby did last night. I'm riveted by what those two are going to do, Wemby and Nikola Jokic, when they face off against each other. But my more immediate thinking, and going back to your question, is what are the Warriors going to do against Wemby? And tonight's a good test for that. What are you going to do against Nikola Jokic? What we've learned this morning is that Al Horford is not going to start tonight. And this is going to be the trend. Al Horford will not be a starter, period, because of his minutes restriction throughout the season. He's not going to play back-to-backs.
He's 40 years old.
I'm sorry?
Because he's 40 years old.
He's old. Yeah, he's old as dirt. Yeah, I mean, he can't really jump to begin with. But they never really got him for athleticism. They got him for the IQ and the fact that at least he's 6'9" in height. That alone means something, and he can rebound decently. And he spaces the floor. That's actually a huge one. But yeah, so the Warriors are going to start tonight with another small ball lineup, most likely, where Draymond Green is right off the bat going to defend Nikola Jokic, and that's going to be a huge question. Can Draymond handle that? And my answer is, I think 10 years ago, unequivocally yes. Here in 2025, medically yes, but I don't feel nearly as good about it. And maybe more importantly, like, what about the long-term picture, man? I mean, you're trying to preserve Draymond Green for the postseason. Do you really want to tax him in October against matchups with players like Nikola Jokic and Victor Wembanyama? And bigger question, can Draymond handle that? I don't know. And what's plan B? Like when I look at Wemby and I look at Jokic, my immediate thought is you're probably going to have to double team these guys and just hope for the best that the supporting cast will not beat you. But that Spurs game, that supporting cast looked damn good. The Spurs basically created a roster of Wemby and an army of wings around him with Castle as the point guard, and it's a lethal combination. So to answer your question, sorry to be long-winded, that's how I roll.
No, please. That's why you're the guest.
I like the Warriors' chances, but they're going to have some very serious tests against bigger teams, and the NBA has gotten bigger. And there's 3 teams in particular that really concern me. And that's, until last night, the Spurs were not on my radar that much. Now they are. The Nuggets are on my radar, and we're going to find that out tonight. The Rockets are on my radar because they're another huge-ass team. I'm curious to see what small ball is going to do. This has been Steve Kerr's MO. And until now, I don't think he's ever faced a gauntlet of size like this. And I'm fascinated to see what the hell happens. But despite all that, I feel great, dude, because here's the thing. Stephen Curry can still neutralize size by hitting 30-footers. Like, size can't stop that. And the Warriors have that weapon, and that's always going to give you a shot. Stephen Curry's that incredible. It's going to be an exciting season.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on that, right? With this small ball talk and it being Steve Kerr's MO. And it makes me wonder, like, at this point, we know he's a great coach, but is there an element of like, I don't know if arrogance is the word, but there's a stubbornness when it comes to, like you said, the NBA is getting bigger. Every team has size, just about. Not many teams are still going with this small ball lineup. So, like, why are the Warriors holding on so tightly to this concept? Is it just, hey, it's worked before in the past with great success, so let's just keep doing it?
I don't know if Steve Kerr like technically has an aversion to size. I just think Steve Kerr loves his read and react system. He loves players who can act instinctually and make great plays without a second thought. He's all about speed. He's all about beating your defender to the punch. That's his MO. And if a 7-footer can do that, great. I just don't know if there's a 7-footer out there who fits that mantra, who's also available. And unfortunately, like for, anyone who loves the Warriors, and if you're old school like me, who already went through this once with Don Nelson, and that's what triggers me so much about small ball. It's like, I grew up with this crap. I never liked it when I was young. I never liked, trading Mitch Richmond for Billy Owens. I thought that was foolish. And then here we are with round two. Now, fortunately, round two had Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson, and that masked all the issues that small ball normally presents. Their
Yeah,
shooting was so
small
lethal.
factor there.
Yeah, right. And they still have Stephen Curry, which is huge. But Kerr is just very steadfast, I feel like, on two things. One is speed. He wants to be faster than you. When I say faster, I don't just mean like athletically. I mean like when you pass a ball, that's instantly an advantage you have from the defender. That ball is going to move faster than any human can. So you're already a step ahead in that regard. And that's why you always see the high assist numbers and you see the ball movement that Kerr adapted from Greg Popovich, even from Phil Jackson, man. Like Phil Jackson's triangle is so much based on movement, and those split actions you see from the Warriors is a derivative of the triangle, where literally the moment someone has the ball, it's all about the off-ball movement to create that right opportunity, but maybe more importantly, to constantly keep your defense on its heels. So Steve Kerr values that tremendously, and then he also values the IQ part of it. And he
Absolutely.
values that so much. And maybe I don't even know if IQ is the right word. It's more like a chemistry thing. Like he and look, and again, my only critique I've ever had of Steve Kerr is personnel. Unfortunately, that's a very big part of coaching is who actually
Yeah,
plays,
absolutely.
right? And this is what burns Kerr sometimes because he's so focused on what's best for Steph. He's so focused on, and this is where the stubbornness comes from, on the read and react offense. Like he wants like a very prototypical type playing for him. And that unfortunately, there's only so many people who fit that brand, right? And that's where the stubbornness kicks in. But to me, again, Kerr ultimately, it's about speed, which is the read and react, and it's about chemistry, which involves making Steph happy and making the team cohesive. And it's very hard to find the perfect player. Like Steve Kerr, to me, I've called him Picky Steve as a nickname because he's like someone who's out there dating who's the pickiest person imaginable. He's rejecting he's like Jerry Seinfeld, man. Like he's that superficial in terms of who
Yeah.
is the most ideal date for him, except the date in this instance is an NBA player. And if the player is not perfect for him, he doesn't like it. And oftentimes like that involves sacrificing talent, and it burns the Warriors. And I think unfortunately, as impressive as the 4 championships has been, I think Stephen Curry's such a great player that they should have won at least 5 in this run. I really believe that, man. Like these decisions by Kerr personnel wise these last 5 years has cost them at least a chip, largely because of how peculiar, how picky Kerr is with the personnel he likes. But with
Tell me
all
more
that
about
said,
that.
man, I do think
Yeah.
this roster currently is mostly built for success this year. Again, the
Okay.
Wemby part, the Jokic part, we shall see, man. Tonight's a big ass test.
Yeah, I mean those other guys, those are factors like outside of your control. There's nothing you can do about it until you face them. So we'll just watch Wemby from afar and
Uh-huh.
admire. But I do want to hear more about this personnel, criticism because I think that came up a lot this summer with Jonathan Kuminga and people talking about, oh, maybe he's not a right fit. And then obviously the talk a few years back where they passed on LaMelo to draft James Wiseman. Largely, rumor has it because of Steve Kerr. So talk to me about some of these,
Not even
personnel
rumor.
decisions.
Yeah.
Was
It's
it
not even rumor.
confirmed?
There's like so I wrote I have a Substack as well. My handle's @dogwild, just like my handle on Instagram and Threads. And I wrote a whole this is like a 15-minute read. I decided to like actually write again for the first time in years. And I wrote a whole column detailing just everything that's led up to where we are now regarding Steve Kerr. And it's not a rumor. Steve Kerr was as much of a proponent for James Wiseman as Joe Lacob was, as Bob Myers was. That is like the prevailing narrative, that James Wiseman was the Joe Lacob pick, right? Like not everyone, but like a huge chunk of the fan base believes that like it's fact. And when you actually listen to people's words, which should matter in all these discussions, Steve Kerr was effusively praising this kid, man, talking about it wasn't just like what he can do on the court. He was like literally there's attributions of him talking about James Wiseman as a leader in a locker room. Steve Kerr reportedly went so far in his recruitment of Wiseman that he went and interviewed Wiseman's former high school teammates, was actually going out, finding them, reaching them to interview them, and came away utterly impressed. James Wiseman was his guy. And as much as it was Lacob's and it was Bob Myers, this was a unanimous selection. There was no pushback. And I think the LaMelo Ball part of it, his dad, I think in hindsight, did play a part in the Warriors passing
Absolutely.
on that.
Yeah.
And part of that goes again to Picky Steve, right? Like who you're going to bring onto your team. And the idea of LeVar Ball being this voice in the background if his son was on the team, I think frightened the Warriors and frightened other teams as well. LaMelo was a third pick, so it was only Minnesota and the Warriors who passed on him. But it was a concerning variable without doubt. So yeah, the Wiseman thing, Steve Kerr should very much own up to that as much as anyone. That was his pick, and I do push back largely based on what Steve Kerr said himself, his words regarding whether or not like it's a rumor that Kerr was interested. No, to me, that's a fact, dude. Like and again, if you push back, all you got to do is just literally pull up Steve
No,
Kerr's
no,
own words.
I just kind of wanted to lightly touch on it. I didn't want to accuse him, but it did seem like it was an organizational decision
It
starting
was,
from Steve Kerr and down. It's not like he was,
yeah.
Kicking down the door, banging for LaMelo, and they said, no, we want James Wiseman. It seemed like
But
it
that was
was
a tough one.
unanimous.
Is it Khaled? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah,
Thank you. Sorry, because it could be Khaled as well. So Khaled, like when you think like in hindsight, going like that was a tough time period for everyone, right? Because 2020 draft was in
100%.
the middle of the pandemic. Like at the time, I don't remember a ton of pushback on James
Not at
Wiseman,
all.
right? Like it was a pick that felt safe. He was a 7-footer there just wasn't a lot of evidence to say otherwise that he was going to be a solid pick. But I will say this, man, Anthony Edwards was there. And the Warriors, if they actually wanted Anthony Edwards, could have very easily swapped picks with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Minnesota was not dead set on Anthony Edwards. They begrudgingly took him. Like Anthony Edwards was not some unanimous consensus
Not
number
at
one
all.
pick.
Yeah.
And that does sting, dude. That part does bother me to this day, that the Warriors could have right now Anthony Edwards on their team, but he didn't pass the Steve Kerr checklist. Like he just didn't pass whatever it is that Kerr, again, Picky Steve. That's why I call him that. Like Anthony Edwards was not good enough for Steve Kerr. That part still rubs me the wrong way, but I digress. I apologize.
Yeah. No, there was a lot of talk I remember leading up where it was like Anthony Edwards, he's probably the number one pick, but like, does he actually want to play football? Does he care about basketball? That was that whole thing. I don't know how much of it was smoke and mirrors. And then when it came to Wiseman, I will own it. 100%. I was 100% on board with it. It felt like a perfect fit. I was like, this guy, 7 foot, he's versatile, he's athletic, he's not a big stiff, he can shoot, spread the floor, blah, blah, blah. It just seemed like this is the perfect fit. Like we've never seen, in our minds, like we've never seen a versatile center playing alongside Steph Curry. It's always been guys like Zaza or McGee or Looney, like, big stiffs that kind of did their thing and they were lob threats and stuff like that. But we've
Still
never
haven't,
seen a
by the
guy
way. 6
still
years
haven't.
later, still
Yeah,
haven't.
exactly. Right. The closest thing we got to it was when they would play, Durant at the 5 occasionally, but it wasn't a thing they did normally. So it was something that on paper, it just felt perfect, but
Yeah.
obviously it didn't work out that way.
Yeah.
So instead they end up with James Wiseman, who doesn't last very long. And then, the next couple of drafts, they end up with Kuminga and Moody. And I want to talk about the Kuminga saga because I think that's a good way to put it.
Yeah,
It's something that took forever to get resolved, and it's still not resolved, right? Because he ends up signing a
correct.
2-year deal with a team option next year. So it's basically a 1-year kind of prove it kind of deal. So what took so long to get this guy signed, and is he still on the team come February?
My prediction for that is yes. I can say with the utmost confidence that Joe Lacob loves this kid. I could say with the utmost confidence that any idea that Kuminga is not a good fit on this team is a narrative that does not reflect reality. And when I say that, I don't mean necessarily in terms of like being perfect on the court. I'm talking more off the court in terms of chemistry with teammates, coaches. Like everyone loves him. And that was an unfortunate narrative that was going around for a long time. And this is where I cannot emphasize enough. Twitter does not reflect reality. Like what's being said there, all the emotion you may feel there is not real life, man. A few years ago, I was embroiled in some dumbass Twitter drama where like this one clip got over 1 million views, all because I said I'm not a fan of like a show, and for whatever reason, like you had all these content creators with one network specifically, because I called this one network out, and I don't care. I have no apologies for what I did, but like you had all these people, like a few people, like just took offense to this because I guess they thought it was a personal shot at them, and these were like mostly like fans who were creating content and whatnot and whatever. My point is, like, if you thought Twitter represented reality, like my career was over, the world hated me, and then on my YouTube channel, like not one comment mentioned it. Like it was that to me was like the most direct evidence. Like, oh wow, so what happens on that platform doesn't mean shit. And I quit Twitter for a while, and all that happened was my YouTube channel, which is the majority of my content, right? That's what I work for is primarily YouTube and the podcast with Believe, and none of that got affected. I quit Twitter and my ratings went up. So like so Twitter doesn't mean shit, dude, is the message I'm trying to tell people. Like, do not think that what goes on there means anything. Yeah, every once in a while, like maybe somebody will say something really stupid and then that catches fire and then people outside of the social media
Yeah, and it
sphere
escapes
pick up on it.
containment, the Twitter
Yeah, but
containment.
but
Yeah.
on a day-to-day level, man, it's just like do not ever let what happens on that my message, and I say this with the utmost confidence, please don't ever let what happens on that platform make you think that's how the majority of the world is feeling or thinking. It does not mean that. And going back to the Kuminga thing, I think that's I tie it to that because there was been this narrative on Twitter that like the veterans didn't like Kuminga. Bull effing shit. And I was pushing back on that from day one. I'm like, dude, what veterans? When have the veterans ever come out and said they don't like Jonathan Kuminga? That is
Yeah.
a complete lie that
No
a few
evidence for that.
people, yeah, a few people were perpetuating. Look, the Kuminga thing, I think ultimately he's a long-term warrior. I think what Kuminga's mentality is this year is I'm gonna and we don't know exactly why there's been this shift in mentality. My theory on it is Steph and Dre and maybe the most importantly Jimmy Butler have started to get in his ear a lot more than in years past, and they're communicating with him more. They're actually embracing him socially more, and that's going a long ways toward Kuminga coming to a realization of okay, if I and him having a contract goes a long way too. Like no one ever talked about the fact that Kuminga until this season was playing for a contract, right? He was on a rookie deal until this year. He was making like 5 million, 6 million. I think the last year of his contract, he was making 7 million a year, approximately. Don't quote me exactly on that. But you look, by our standards, average, human beings, that's a shitload of money. But by an NBA player's standards, especially someone like Kuminga who's aspiring for greatness, it's scratch, man. Like a player like Kuminga is looking at his draft classmates making hundreds of millions of dollars, and that's ultimately the goal, man. And him getting 25 million this year, at least close to that, is you see how much more relaxed he is, right? Like he's not playing with the stress of where am I playing next? What's my next contract going to be? Right now, he is focused on one thing, and that's the team. And I think the messaging from Steph, from Jimmy, from Dre has resonated with him where look, just focus on the team ethos now. Focus
Mhm.
on us winning a 5th championship this year because everything's going to work out for you long term if that happens. The keys will be
Absolutely.
handed to you. This will someday be your team where you will have a chance to be a Kobe Bryant type player where you're going to shoulder the responsibilities of the highs and lows of this team. You're going to shoulder the responsibility of being the go-to guy when it matters most. And that Minnesota series went a hell of a long way toward him showing he at least potentially can handle that responsibility. So I think like the Warriors and Kuminga are in a very good place right now, man. And I don't think that the plan is to trade him. I think if
Okay.
Giannis Antetokounmpo becomes available, of course you're gonna like explore that, and that might be a reality. But that's Giannis, man. Outside of Giannis, I don't even know if LeBron James. That's a Joe Lake. Only Joe Lacob knows the answer to this. Whether or not LeBron James would be enough to move the needle and trade someone like Kuminga. Kevin Durant would be the third one, but he seems locked in with Houston. He made it
Yeah,
clear
he's not
last
going
year he
anywhere.
doesn't want to come back. So there's only two players that I see that could actually convince Joe Lacob to move on from Kuminga. That's Giannis Antetokounmpo, maybe LeBron James, and those are so unrealistic that I don't think he's going anywhere, man. And I think this year he's taking on an Andre Iguodala type role. You're seeing it with the numbers, like he's trying to distribute, he's crashing the boards, and he's actually communicating, which is a huge thing. Like Steve Kerr alluded to that at the start of the first game, where Kuminga was missing a mid-range jumpers, and then immediately signaling to Kerr, keep me in, keep me in. I know I messed that up. And that little subtle communication was not there in years past. And I don't know if that's the veterans getting in his ear about that. I don't know if that's
Maybe it's just
Kuminga
experience. I
maturing.
mean, yeah,
But to
maturity.
answer
Yeah.
your question, I think Kuminga isn't going anywhere. I know that this offseason was a nightmare. I'm legitimately traumatized from that, dude. Like, and financially, anyone who makes money covering the Warriors suffer tremendously from that. No one's crying, shedding tears about us, and that's fine. But my point is, man, this summer was a nightmare. It's thankfully past us, and I think personally, Kuminga is going to be a long-term part of the Warriors.
Yeah, it got to a point where it's like, I just want a resolution.
Yeah. What
Whatever
do you
it
think, by the way?
is.
What's your opinion? Because these are all opinions. What's your opinion on it?
Yeah. I think it's basically an audition right now. I don't think it's set in stone. I think it's, you need to earn it because, like we said, it is a 1 year deal. And if he does play consistently like he did on opening night, then he will be because he's going to be a valuable asset to the team. He's going to be, 2022 Andrew Wiggins, right? Where he's a potentially an all-star candidate. I know it's an incredibly deep West, so he probably won't make it. But if he plays at that level, then
Yes.
I think it's going to convince, the franchise that, okay, long term, this guy has his head on straight, which I don't think it was a concern about like his maturity or anything like that. It's just like, is this guy, does he have the personality to take over and to take on these roles that maybe aren't the most, the sexiest, but it's what's going to lead to winning.
Yeah.
And I
I like
think,
the Wiggins
I,
comp too. I like that. I've been saying Andre Iguodala. I like the Wiggins comp too. That's a
yeah,
good one.
just a more recent, basically the same thing, right? Play hard, hard
Yeah.
defense, distribute,
Yes.
rebound, all the stuff that like shows up in the box score in certain ways. You're not going to be the leading scorer or take 20
Yeah.
shots, but no one's going to take 20 shots when you got, Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry on your team. So
Yeah. And Jimmy Butler, and this has been written in numerous places now. This isn't like some secret, but Jimmy Butler and this is so beneficial for everybody with the Warriors, anybody with an emotional investment in the Warriors. The fact that Jimmy Butler has basically taken Kuminga under his wing. And the Jimmy Butler
love it.
part of this is huge because Steph and Steve Kerr are like this. And it's why would it be otherwise, right? Like they've won 4 championships together. Steve Kerr is the one who really unlocked whatever was missing from Steph's repertoire to go from being an unbelievable player who was making the postseason to a champion, right? And Kerr unlocked that, whatever that difference was, and whether it was just the offense, whether there was a mental aspect to it, only those two can answer it. But my point is, Stephen Curry and Steve Kerr are boys, and by default, Draymond Green and Steve Kerr are boys. Steve Kerr coming to Draymond's defense in 2022 following that Jordan Poole incident. Like that level of loyalty was not lost on Draymond Green. So Draymond Green by default will defer to Steve Kerr. So in a situation like this with Kuminga, where he really needs his coach's support to thrive, right? Jimmy Butler is far more of an outsider. So Jimmy Butler came into this not with the same amount of fealty and loyalty to Steve Kerr as Steph and Draymond do. Jimmy came into this and his mentality is, why isn't Kuminga playing? Like, what the hell is going on here? And the fact that, especially when you see the talent, and Jimmy Butler is not one to mince words. Jimmy Butler is not one to play it safe. He's going to keep it real. He's going to tell you how he feels. And Jimmy Butler from day one saw Kuminga and was like, this kid is
Play this kid.
legit.
Yeah.
What is going on here? So he's taken Kuminga under his wing, and that is such a positive for everybody, man. Like Jimmy Butler is basically in the same way that Jimmy Butler calls himself Stephen Curry's Robin. I think Jonathan Kuminga is now Jimmy Butler's Robin, and that's amazing. I'm thrilled for that, dude, and I'm pumped.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm a fan. I was high on Kuminga last year. I'm high on him this year. I hope he is a Warrior long term. So, I also want to talk about some of the other young guys on the team. Specifically Moses Moody and Brandon Podziemski. There's been some criticism about the Warriors and developing young players, and I think this is a real like big prove it year for those two guys. Just like Kuminga, maybe not going to grab as many headlines, but it's still a big story. So, what do you think is kind of the outlook for these guys coming into the season?
Moses Moody had a phenomenal offseason in terms of work. And it's really crazy, like what the NBA's become, how it's evolved over the years. Like off seasons were not always. I mean, look, the Michael Jordan types always were 100% committed, whether it was the off season or the regular season. Not every NBA player was like that. A lot of NBA players would treat the off season, at least once upon a time, as a vacation. Like 1, 2, 3 Cancun didn't mean Cancun for like a week. It meant for like a month. It meant for 2 months. And I don't mean literally Cancun. I mean like the mentality of
Yeah.
it, right? And the approach. And that's changed, dude. Like most players, at least the successful ones, like they're spending the off season like it's just a 3-month training camp. And at least you have to if you want to succeed in the NBA today. Moses Moody did that. Moses Moody, first of all, had that thumb injury. I think it was the same injury that knocked Keegan Murray out for the start of the season with the Kings, except Moses Moody was playing through his injury through the end of last season and then got in the offseason, got the surgery to fix it. So Moses Moody, I'm elated to see what comes of this kid because everyone talks about Kuminga year 5 and we're starting to see the maturity. Steve Kerr's talking about it a lot. Steve Kerr repeatedly brings up the fact that Jonathan Kuminga, his rookie year, he was a freshman. He would have been a freshman in college his rookie year in the
Yeah, he was a
NBA, and that's
baby.
a true story, age-wise. So, but Moses Moody is only like a few months older than Jonathan Kuminga. Moses Moody's also really young, and so he's at like almost at the same level as Kuminga in terms of like we're watching these two young men grow into who knows what they're going to grow into, but the potential is exciting to witness before our very eyes. I'm so riveted with what could potentially happen with Moses Moody, the Brandon Pajem and Moody. I hope he starts, and I think he could be like the type of player who's like a 40% 3-point shooter, 15 points a game. All the little things you're seeing Jonathan Kuminga do with rebounds. I don't know if Moses Moody will be as efficient with assists, but I can see him also crashing the boards. He's got a very long wingspan. I love Moody, man. I've loved this kid from day one, and to see what he could do this year, I'm incredibly excited for. And the wingspan thing, side note, the Warriors and we bring up small ball. Let's not forget wingspan is also a very important physical attribute.
100%. Yeah.
Whereas even though the Warriors' average height, I think that they're still the shortest team in the NBA in terms of average height. They were the last 2 years, and I think that's the case again this year, but not in terms of wingspan. Wingspan wise, and the Warriors always take that into note. There's two variables no one talks about in terms of what the Warriors look for when they draft players and sign players. One is wingspan, and 2 is Christianity. No one talks about that, but like every single Warriors player is going to church on a regular basis.
I've never
I don't
talked
think it's a
about that.
coincidence at this point anymore. Steve Kerr excluded. I don't think Steve Kerr's a very church going type, but
Sure.
the players are. The players are, man. It's crazy. Anyways, I don't mean to go into that, but my point is Moses Moody, I'm elated for, and the Warriors. That's where if you're worried about the small ball, wingspan is something that can make up for a good portion of the deficiencies with height, because ultimately when you're trying to block shots, those hands are up, dude, and that shit matters. And when you're trying to take away passing lanes, right? That wingspan absolutely matters. So that does make up for some of the height deficiencies with the Warriors. And Moses Moody's another player that has this massive wingspan, which makes up for the height. He's 6'5". The Brandon Podziemski part of this is interesting because when DeAnthony Melton comes back, when Seth Curry comes back, when
Yeah.
Moses Moody comes back. I don't know how you justify Brandon Podziemski getting 30 minutes a night. I don't know how you justify starting Brandon Podziemski as your two guard. I think Brandon Podziemski is perfect as your backup point guard, as someone who comes in to spell Stephen Curry. I think that is his role. Steve Kerr is fond of this kid. We all know that, and sometimes the usage can be a little questionable in terms of the minutes and so forth. But the net rating thing, look, as long as that holds up, the complaints are going to be limited, right? Because ultimately the goal is to win. And as long as Podziemski is playing winning basketball, he's going to keep
All that
playing.
matters. Yeah.
But I am curious to see what happens when Melton, Moody, and Seth come back, because all three of those players, to me, Steve Kerr may not agree with this, but to me, they bring more to the table than Brandon Podziemski does. And I don't know what's going to happen there, dude. That's the Pods piece of this is fascinating. I hear this word connector brought up a lot with Podziemski in terms of him just, being a facilitator offensively,
I don't see it.
being in the right place at the right time, maybe defensively with the rebounding and otherwise.
I would say defensively, yeah, it's the rebounding, the charges. I think that's where he stands out. But
Absolutely.
offensively, I'm not seeing the connector thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and look, if you could shoot 40% or better from three, I can live with that. But we don't always see that, man. And what was he at 37% last year, approximately?
Something like that, yeah.
If you can get to 40, I think people can live with those minutes. But the Pods piece is going to be, this has so many interesting things that we haven't seen yet. And that's the beauty of Warriors basketball, man.
Yeah. And we know, the team isn't going to look, in February like it does now because of, whatever it might be, some transactions, injuries, whatever it is. So it's nice that you have some depth to discuss. And I'm excited about these young guys.
Hell yeah.
Last year was a great step forward for them. And I think this year, they should take another leap, hopefully. Right.
And Will Richard, who was getting real minutes opening night. He got the game ball after opening night. That was a second round pick that might be a gem, dude. And I don't know if we're gonna see the reward of it that much this year, because again, when Seth comes back and these other players, and especially Moody, I imagine Moody's minutes is where Will Richard got his opportunity the most in the opening night game. But for the future, right? And I always love thinking about the future, because I don't want to ever see the Warriors go back to what they were in the pre-Steph days. Look, for the people who just feel like whose argument is to sell out for the present, to sell out for Steph's fifth championship. And I'm not against that. Like the goal should be Steph's fifth championship, as long as you're not ignoring what could happen a year from now, 2 years from now. And you can't ignore what could happen if Steph gets injured, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is a possibility, man. You can't ignore that variable as someone who's turning 38. With all that said, though, like when I think about the Warriors' future, and I'm looking at pieces, obviously like Kuminga, Moses Moody, Brandon Podziemski, who again, some people just really are down on this kid, and then you have some people who are I think too high on this kid. I don't know yet. I don't know
huge
what to
variance
expect,
on
but I'm
him,
not
yeah.
down on him. I think maybe Curry overvalues him to a small aspect, but for the future, I don't hate the idea of him being the team's starting point guard. I actually like that. So when I look at the future, Podziemski, Kuminga, Moody, Will Richard, I don't know what Quentin Post is going to turn into, but
Yeah, we didn't
that's
even
a
talk about him.
possibility.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think we both are. And obviously the Steph Curry area has been incredible. It's been the highlight of our Warriors experience over the decades, but the future matters. And I think there's some nice pieces here. So I also want to talk about some other teams in the NBA. I think there's some interesting storylines across
Yeah.
both conferences. I mean, we don't need to spend too much time on the favorites because I feel like that's a little boring.
It's your show. Whoever you want. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was saying, do you have any dark horse picks in the West and East? Because I think in the top 10 in terms of NBA futures, there's only two teams in the East that are favored to win the title. So I guess they're all dark horses. But is there any team outside of, the top three that you're looking at hey, this team might make some noise in either conference?
Well, look, yesterday was the big opening night for the NBA. Officially, it was Tuesday with the two big games. But yesterday, Wednesday, we're recording this Thursday morning, was the informal opening night for the NBA, because you had something like 12 games, or it was a full docket. And so one game is tough to come to conclusions from, right? Because what we saw on opening night might not mean anything 2 months from now, 3 months from now. The reason why I bring that up is because before opening night, and maybe this was foolish, and again, you said that word expert at the beginning, and I really do appreciate you saying that. Like, if I'm an expert on the Warriors, it's only in relative to the other people covering the team, but I'm not an expert on shit, dude. I do appreciate that. And I say that, though, mainly because I'm most certainly not an expert on, let's say, the Washington Wizards or let's say the Detroit Pistons. Those are two teams that before yesterday, I actually was high on. Like, I thought the Wizards were a team that might surprise some people. And again, it was just one game, but it's the Wizards. And Charles Barkley, like, he was so funny on Inside the NBA, basically comparing CJ McCollum's situation with the Wizards to, what's that guy's name? George Santos, the disgraced
Yeah.
politician who
Yeah.
was pardoned by Donald Trump. And he was asking for CJ McCollum to get pardoned out of Washington because it's
Man.
NBA purgatory. And I honestly thought, hey, look, it's only one game, and maybe what I thought still might ring true, but I thought the Wizards were going to be better than that. Cam, I don't know, like, I want to look at that box score. I haven't looked at the box score of that game yet because
It's a really strange roster. I'll say that.
it is. You're absolutely right. But where I was optimistic was I thought Alex Sarr was going to take a leap in year 2, and he had 10 points, 11 boards. Did not even take a 3-point attempt. So maybe that's a coaching thing. I don't know. But I thought Cam Whitmore was going to have more of an impact. And again, maybe it's coaching because I'm looking at the box score right now, and Cam Whitmore only played 19 minutes. And in those 19 minutes, he put up 14 points and grabbed 5 boards. So why did he only play 19? Maybe
It's
how
the
I feel about the
Wizards.
Wizards might still come true, and maybe it's a coaching thing, but I'm looking at the rotation. Corey Kispert, this is what, year 4 for him? Why is he only playing 18 minutes? And he put up 11 points in those 18 minutes. Maybe the Wizards' issue is coaching. I don't know. But I thought the Wizards would do more, and maybe they still will when they figure out like their minute distribution, because I thought Cam Whitmore, I thought Corey Kispert, and I thought Alex Sarr would be huge parts of that team, and they were not in game 1. And then the other team that I expected more from was in the East, was the Detroit Pistons. And the Pistons were getting their asses kicked for 3 quarters against the Chicago Bulls of all teams. They had a hell of a fourth quarter, and they almost pulled it off. But I'm looking at the Pistons minutes here to try to figure out like what went wrong there.
I'm still high on the Pistons. I think they're going to build on last year. I think Cade's going to be he's going to be a star.
It is.
He's on the way already, but he's a
Yes.
great player.
But I'm looking at the box score for this game, and what immediately sticks out to me for I think why the Pistons on game 1 laid a big ass fat ugly egg. It wasn't Ronald Holland's fault. Ron Holland is I've heard a lot of great things about him this offseason in terms of him taking a leap. And last night, all that did was substantiate that narrative. He had 19 points, 4 boards in 27 minutes. But what's disappointing to me from this box score, at least, and that tells part of the story, not the whole story. Duncan Robinson, who they dropped a lot of money for, and he was a late addition because of the gambling issue with that. Who was the player that was one of the top 3-point shooters last year for him?
Beasley.
Malik Beasley, yeah, I think he made more threes than Steph, or was right in the same
range,
ballpark.
yeah, he was great.
Yeah, he was phenomenal last year, but again, gambling, dude, it's tying it all back to that. Was Malik Beasley's downfall? He's still under investigation. So the Pistons got Duncan Robinson, who plays 32 minutes last night, scores 2 points, 32
He's so
minutes.
streaky. He's so streaky.
He's
It's like
streaky, and
he's
when
going to have
when
nights like that.
So again, that's where coaching just has to be more cognizant, dude. If Duncan Robinson is playing 32 minutes, he was 3rd on the team in minutes, man. That to me is indefensible. And he's 1 of 7 from the field. He's 0 of 5 from deep. He exists for 3-point shooting, and he hit 0 3-pointers. He scores 2 points in 32 minutes. So that's your problem right there. It's nice to be able to pinpoint what went wrong just from a box score. Anyways, in the East, a long-winded answer as usual for me. I apologize. That's what you get from a former radio host. I thought the Pistons and Wizards would be your surprise teams in the East after one game that did not ring true, but at least the box score gave a good explanation for why.
Yeah, it gives you a
and
hint.
then in the West,
what went wrong?
sorry.
I just said it gives
And
you a
then
hint on what went wrong.
And then in the West, one team that I brought up in terms of being an absolute wild card because everyone was shitting on them, and maybe rightfully so, but they won their game last night, and I've been curious about them, and that's the Utah Jazz. The Utah Jazz And I'm not sitting here saying they're going to make any real noise, but I would not be shocked if they somehow like made the play in. And I bring that up largely because when you look at their roster, there are a couple players that stick out. And it's not
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
names you think, which is Lauri Markkanen, Lowry Markkanen, like Mike Lowry. It ain't Walker Kessler. It's Keontae George. It's Ace Bailey, who fell to them with the number 5 pick, whose agent was not picking up Danny Ainge's son's phone calls. True story, by the way. And I don't know why I was the one who broke that story, yet I was incredibly. So, anyways, those two and Kyle Flipikowski who knows? Who knows? And they won last night. These are not sexy picks, but those are my
Yeah, they won
underrated.
in dominant fashion against, I think, not I wouldn't say a favorite in the West, but a team that people probably thought would be, top 4, top 5. But again, it is one game. The issue with Utah is, like, I don't know how many of those guys you mentioned are still on the team
Good
in a
point.
couple months.
Good
So I
point.
think that's the big question is, like, what is Danny Ainge building? Is he just, like, setting up shop so he can sell these guys off for parts or whatever it is? So I think I'm with you on the talent that they have. There's a lot of interesting pieces. So maybe they get rid of some of, like, the older guys to make room for these younger guys, whatever it might be. But
I will say
Cyrus, I
this though,
appreciate.
you
Yeah,
you
go
said
ahead.
you lived in Sacramento at the start of the show.
I do.
And the team in that market, the Sacramento Kings, are a perfect example for why there needs to be rules in place. In soccer, they have relegation, which is an incredible concept. Like the fact that the worst team in a league is punished by being removed altogether and relegated to like a minor league, like that. I really wish that existed in the NBA because all of a sudden you would have a fire lit under teams to not be shitty, to not tank, and I wish that type of rule and concept was extended toward just taking ownership away altogether from the shittiest owners in the NBA. And like maybe have a rule where like if you don't make the playoffs over 20 years, you got to sell. You have to sell. Fan bases would be elated over a
They
rule
would
like
love
that.
that.
And the
Yeah.
Kings come to mind because this is an organization that's so misrun. Vec just has no idea what he's doing in the Sacramento market, or nobody, I'm sorry, nationally talks enough about the fact that the owner's daughter, and this is a true story, that the owner's daughter was the GM of the G League team who plays in Stockton, right?
That is correct.
And she was dating one of the players who is now either on trial. I don't know where it is, but he murdered someone. He literally murdered someone while she was dating him. Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you know the guy's name?
Was it Chance something?
Yes.
Sounds
And I forgot his
familiar.
full name.
Comanche,
And
Chance Comanche,
Chance
right?
Comanche. Thank you. Chance Comanche
Sounds
like
like a made up
commits
name, but
murder. And when you read this story, like he did it like about as casually as someone who's dying for thirst and goes by as a Coke. Like it was that nonchalant. Like he had he's involved with all these chicks, and one of them's like, "Hey, can you kill this other one for me?" All right, sure. Insane story. He actually commits murder. She's in love with this guy. Like, they're not just dating. She's in love with him. He's arrested for murder. She's so traumatized by this, she steps away from her role as GM. She decides to be like an art professor. I don't even know. She went to hiding. Like, she just disappeared. And the owner owns the Kings. This whole dude, the Kings are such a laughing stock that I feel for the fan. I'm at a point where I feel for the fan base. I normally laugh at the fan base. You now have my sympathy because I don't want anyone to experience this level of downtrodden leadership. Yeah, that's what the Sacramento Kings are, brother. I don't know why I went to that, but here
you
we
just
are.
want to talk about the Kings. I mean, being in
Because that
the
story's
Sacramento
crazy,
area,
isn't it?
it's absolutely bonkers. They kind of talked about it on sports radio, but I guess it's not something that you want to spend too much time on if you're
I do.
covering the team. But they
If
did
you're in
talk about.
Sac, you don't. If you're in
Yeah,
Sacramento, you don't. But you're in the
yeah,
Bay Area, I'll talk about it all day, every day.
yeah. I remember they somehow her name got dragged into the De'Aaron Fox trade as she was the one that pushed for keeping Malik Monk over him. It was just a it's very strange over here.
I didn't know.
There's a Yeah, which is fine. I mean, you talk about national media. I think that's one of the benefits of being in a small market is things like this can happen, and
Yeah.
people outside of the area code don't talk too much about it. But yeah, so before we let you go, I want to get some MVP, Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year picks from you. And then you can tell people where they can find you and your podcast, and we can let you go.
You should get into this, by the way. Like, how did 40/40 start?
I just started doing it. It was kind of a COVID thing. A couple buddies of mine were already podding. I started podcasting with them, got more comfortable with a mic, something that I've always wanted to do. And I was like, and then my wife, she was a big, big push. She bought me the
That's huge.
microphone. She got me into it. She's like, just start it. And I was like, who wants to hear me talk? Nobody wants to hear me talk still, but at least I have fun doing it. I get to meet people like you. So that's all that
Dude,
matters.
you've got solid subscriber numbers, man. Like bravo. Like
I
you're
appreciate
doing
it.
something
Thank
good
you.
here, dude. Like keep it going. And kudos for having a wife who actually supports your passions. I don't think every husband can say that, dude. So bravo to you.
Very, very true. I'm a very lucky man. I do know that.
I'm glad
Yeah,
you're aware of that.
tell me your picks, man. Let me hear them. I want to hear some
Self-awareness is not an
predictions.
attribute every person has. And the older you get, the more you realize just how few people have that attribute. It's a very important attribute for every human to have. What was your question? I apologize. What
I want to get some award picks from you before we wrap up.
I mean, it's my opinion on who's going to win awards is so meaningless. But if you want, look, for the sake of argument and having fun, I will say right now, if health abides, Victor Wembanyama will be your MVP. Victor Wembanyama will be
After
your
last night, yeah.
Again, it's just one day, but that one day changed a lot of opinions for a lot of people. Who knows who else gets mixed up in gambling indictments? My sadistic hope in all this is that LeBron James retires. I want him out of this league so damn bad. Like, you had your run, man. Like, move on. Let other people have opportunities, dude. I'm never a fan of people who stick around longer than they should in any industry. Right? Especially if it's a job that like a million other people want. Like, just let it go, dude. Like find other things to be passionate about. Find other hobbies, dude. Like, Jesus Christ, man. LeBron James, let it go. You're 41 years old in a month or two. And the fact that his buddy James Jones got mixed up in this, the fact that
Damon Jones. Just to clarify, it's Damon Jones.
What did I say, James?
Yeah. It's
Are you
Damon
sure it's
Jones.
Damon?
Yeah, the ex teammate, not James Jones. I was the GM of the Suns or whatever. It was Damon Jones, former teammate from the Cavaliers. So,
But not Damian
important
Jones, Damon Jones.
Damon Jones.
Damon
Yes.
Jones. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, regardless, Damon Jones is affiliated with LeBron James. The fact that I'm hearing LeBron's name, like,
Is crazy.
in the lead of these stories, it's fascinating to me, dude. Like, he's directly implicated in this. I know it's a guilt by association type of thing, but good enough for me. Go away, please, LeBron. I beg of you, just leave. With all that said, Wembanyama for MVP, Wembanyama for Defensive Player of the Year, Coach of the Year. Who do you think? Who's your pick? As I think about this for a second.
I mean, why not the Spurs coach? If all those things happen, then they're probably a top 3 seed after not making the playoffs last year. And then why not him?
What's his name? Kelvin Jones? Is that his name?
I believe it's Kelvin Johnson. I should know
Kelvin
this.
Johnson. Yeah. That's a good pick. I'm gonna roll with. I think Mark Degnault will get. Did he win it last year?
He did. Yeah. I mean, I think he won it twice because they just keep winning. Right? They're like the surprise team.
I think he might surprise people, dude. And that'll be my pick, and I could be totally wrong on that. But it's either going to be him or Ime Udoka. I'll say it's one of those two. But the fact that the Thunder won that opening night game and they didn't have their second best player was very impressive, dude. Because, look, we haven't had a repeat champion since the Warriors in 2018 for damn good reason. And one very important variable in basketball that people, I don't think, talk about enough because there's no stat for it. And that's desire, right? It's a part of human nature. And it's a very vital variable when it comes to discussing sports. Who wants it more, right? Like who out there ultimately is fighting the hardest for what they want, which in this case is to win. And when a team wins a championship, that hunger suddenly becomes a very huge issue. You have a ring. You're fat and complacent. Like you could tell yourself all you want, I want to be a repeat champion. But is your drive, is your personality following that belief? And more times than not, no. The answer is no to that. The Thunder are young. The Thunder are a team that keeps playing like they have something to prove. They remind me a lot of the Warriors the year after they won their championship and they won 73 games.
Yeah.
Like, the Thunder are dangerous, dude. And if they can pull off another run in the regular season like they did last year. Their over-under on FanDuel was, I think, was 62.5, which I thought was very low for a team that won, 67, 68 a year ago, a team that's young, that brought their whole core back together. So if they can do that again, who knows? Maybe Dagnall will win another one. But otherwise, Ime Udoka would be my other choice because he's a damn good coach, dude.
Yes, he is. And he has a great team. They
Yeah.
might need a point guard, but great team.
Yeah.
From
And
top to
then
bottom.
Cooper Flagg for Rookie of the Year. That's an easy one, right? Right? Do you think Edgecombe might win it? Who else is in the running?
I mean, the thing with Edgecombe is he is in a worse like situation, so he can maybe there's less expectations on him. I don't think anyone has championship aspirations in Philly, so he might just get the green light to do whatever he
Yeah.
wants and score a million points. So maybe that's the stats ultimately are what lead to him.
Yeah.
But he's dynamite. He's a lot of fun to watch. So
agreed. Yeah, and
all
and
right.
then some people are talking about Toronto as being a sleeper team, and they look good last night, dude. So maybe who knows? Maybe I'm just so happy the NBA is back, dude. That's my bottom line. What awards am I missing? Did I give all the big ones?
I think that all of them, but I think it's just like the main takeaway, man, is that the NBA is back and any
Yeah,
given night, anybody can
yeah,
go off for 40 points. And if you're the
yes,
Clippers,
sir.
you can lose to the Jazz and you could lose to the Wizards the next night. And it's just, it's a great league for a reason, top to bottom. It's a ton of fun. There's players on every single team that you want to watch and you care about and you're invested in. So I'm still a football guy, number one, but I'm really glad the NBA is back.
Well, real quick, since football is your main, well, who's your team in football?
I am a Raiders fan.
Okay.
Grew up in the Bay, as we discussed, and I happen to pick the Raiders.
So, and again, when I grew up, the Raiders weren't even in the Bay Area. So for me, the choice was very easy growing up. It was the Niners because the Raiders were in LA. And so I'm a Niners guy. So the Raiders, I'm not trying to kick you while you're down, but the Raiders to me remind me a lot of like phrases. To me, the Raiders are to the NFL what the Kings are to the NBA. And I know you don't like hearing that. And I'm sorry. At least you have Tom Brady on your ownership, so you have some semblance of a winning, focus there. But what are your thoughts on the Niners in this Brock Purdy situation? Because I love Niner Mac. If it's up to me, like you like this was Kyle Shanahan's original pick, and Kyle Shanahan came out and said that the only reason they ultimately went with the other guy, number 5, what was his name? Trey Lance. The only reason they went with him was because he had too much time to think about it and he overthought it. And he went with Trey Lance. He got seduced by the athleticism. In hindsight, he wishes he still went with Mac Jones. To me, Mac Jones is an actual NFL quarterback. Brock Purdy is someone who has heart, who has grit, but
Desire,
he's a
all that
little man
stuff.
out there who does not always deliver. I want a gunslinger for my QB, man. I want someone who can put up 50 passing attempts a night and not hurt your team in the process. And to me, Mac Jones, I like him, man. But apparently Brock Purdy is like the anointed starter and he's going to get the job back. What are your thoughts on that
It's the
situation?
contract. I do think Brock Purdy is a slightly better quarterback than Mac Jones. I like to tease my Niner fans and Niner fan friends and say, "Oh, it's Mac Jones' team now." I do think Purdy is better, but I don't think he's
Tease me like that, please, because I want to hear it. I actually like that rhetoric.
I don't think he's like $35 or $40 million better than Mac Jones. I think that's the big difference. As if they were going to spend that money, they could have spent it on other players on the team. You wouldn't have Juwan Jennings begging for a new contract. Or some of the other guys you could have paid some of the other dudes, and you could have gotten similar production from Mac Jones, which we're seeing, right? I mean, the proof is right there in the pudding. You have a ton of talent around him, so just keep playing Mac Jones. You don't need to rush Brock Purdy back, but I think just because of the contract, he's going to get the job back when he's healthy. But I don't think he is that much better than Mac Jones to deserve that big of a contract.
Yeah, and again, I'm not. This is no disrespect to Brock Purdy. It's just, I mean, we've seen this system and what it produces. I mean, Jimmy
Yeah.
Garoppolo looked amazing. Jimmy Garoppolo was one throw away from being a Super Bowl champion, and you could almost say the same thing
Absolutely.
about Brock Purdy. This system clearly is borderline genius, and it's a huge reason why Kyle Shanahan will not be going anywhere as a head coach. But dude, Mac Jones, like to me, he should be the guy. Like, to me, Mac Jones should be the starter. He's 4-1, 5-1 now. Like,
Yeah, I scrolled
let him
down your
keep playing
timeline.
until
You
what's
have
up?
a lot of love for. I scrolled down your timeline. You have a lot of love for Niner Mac,
Niner
as
Mac.
you
Yeah,
call him.
dude. Like, I want to see him play. And this just goes again. I don't know if it's a Bay Area thing because I don't really get this sense in other markets, but people here just get so stuck on certain individuals, right? Like Andrew Wiggins was an example of this. Like people still can't let that go. GP2 is another example of this. People still like love this guy. I mean, even though like their best days are behind them, even though like there's better options out there, like people here in the Bay Area, it's almost like there's like a guilt factor with talking about replacing someone. It's almost like, no, you're gonna hurt their feelings. It's like, dude, it's sports. Like it's supposed to be who is the best person at this moment for the job at hand. It's like we're not supposed to let feelings dictate personnel decisions. Yet, and again, I don't know if it's a Bay Area thing where it's like, no, we don't
Kind
want to
of.
hurt feelings, bro. We're soft, and I don't know what's going on here. But I'm getting that sense with Brock Purdy where it's like, but dude, he's our guy. He's adorable, and it's like, yeah, but he's like 6 feet and he gets crushed out there half the times. And how many times have we seen like him have the opportunity to win a game for the Niners with a game-winning 2-minute drive? And fourth down, he's throwing an incomplete pass. And that's happened a lot. At what point do you kind of like move on, man? Like the Bay Area has a huge issue with their fan base. That's just me, though. I could be wrong.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation on fan culture, and we already talked about the East Coast. I don't think they get quite as attached to these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. I really appreciate you. Appreciate your time. Where can folks hear more from you? Where can folks find you on social media?
Twitter, Threads and Instagram at Dogwild. It's a very easy handle, 7 letters, 2 syllables, DOGWILD. The person who has that handle on Twitter, I want to literally put my hands around his throat and choke him until he blacks out. Not till he dies. I don't want to go to that extent, but I do want to inflict some harm on this person because about 10 years ago, we had an agreement where he was we were gonna swap handles because this person just squats on it. They don't use it. And it would be nice to have that same handle for every platform. Nonetheless, sorry for the rant there. So the person who has Dog Wild on Twitter, again, I don't like you. I'm mad at you. My handle on Twitter, X, whatever people call it these days, I'm going to call it Twitter till the end of time, is at Surf Journalist. And my program, Golden Daze, it's available on YouTube and on all podcast platforms. Literally, if you just search Golden Daze, Daze spelled like Dazed and Confused, that's the program. And we cover the Golden State Warriors. Shockingly, insanely become one of some measurables put us as literally number 1 for the most viewed and listened to program covering the Warriors. And hopefully we're just starting, man. Like we're just, I can't thank the supporters enough. I never understand how and why this show has an audience, but I'm grateful and I'm just going to keep trucking along. And we try to have fun, dude. We go live after every Warriors game. So that's the easiest way to find us. But yeah, just subscribe if you don't mind on Golden Daze. And hopefully someday we might reach your levels. 40/40 is killing it, brother. Congratulations. And thanks for having me.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for your time once again. And I'll make sure to include the links to all that stuff in the episode description. Yeah, man. Let's do this again sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds good.